My girlfriend of a year broke up with me twice, claiming I didn't call her love enough. I feel lost and guilty for trying to hold my ground. Hello, everyone. I am composing this message because I feel utterly bewildered. I apologize for the lengthy text, but I am unable to cease overanalyzing the events that transpired, and I am in urgent need of an outside viewpoint. I was involved in a relationship with a woman whom I perceive as emotionally abusive, manipulative, and profoundly unstable. Yet, a part of me still believes that I was the issue and that I am to blame for her departure. Overview of her background: she experienced a childhood in an emotionally abusive environment. Her mother was dominating, aggressive, and would often scream and emotionally blackmail those around her. Her parents separated when she was young. Her father was passive and submissive, attempting to maintain harmony. These dynamics continue to influence her life. She harbors both resentment and a desire for validation from her mother, continually longing for her approval despite being aware of the toxicity of their relationship. She has shared that she has never had a healthy romance before. Each one ended disastrously. Now, I suspect this is due to her perception of love, her treatment of me during the relationship. Initially, everything seemed flawless. She quickly became infatuated, declared me the love of her life, and yet kept our relationship secret for the first 3 to 4 months we were together for about a year. She spoke about marriage, children, and our future almost right away. However, as time passed, things shifted. She anticipated that I would fit her ideal boyfriend mold instead of appreciating me for who I truly was. She struggled to accept differing viewpoints. When I disagreed, it felt as though I was attacking her. She reacted aggressively or manipulatively when I established boundaries or communicated my needs. She almost never apologized first. If she hurt me, she would justify her actions, revise the narrative, or shift the blame onto me. When I made mistakes, and I did, as I am not flawless, I would apologize and attempt to mend things, but I never received the same in return. The initial breakup: we were in a semi-long-distance relationship. I traveled to see her numerous times, a 5-hour train journey, and whenever she visited my city, it was never just to see me. She always had other commitments. I was unemployed and had more availability to visit her. Regardless, I sensed that the commitment was not reciprocated. One evening, I expressed my feelings regarding this, and she exploded, telling me that I needed to get over it since she experienced anxiety when visiting our city and needed to make time for others. I suggested that she stay at my place when she visited if that was a source of stress for her. I want to feel comfortable, not cramped in 15 square meters. I felt deeply hurt. My commitment was absolute, yet she never returned solely for me. The following day, she ignored me completely. I waited for her to message me, and when she didn't, I asked her to return a camera I had lent her. Later, she claimed that this was indicative of my only caring about my possessions. She vanished for 3 days. I kept messaging her, attempting to understand what had happened, but she consistently blamed me in her replies. Eventually, I sent her a long message articulating my pain and confusion. The next day, I encountered her in a park, and after an argument, she clapped at me when I recounted the efforts I had made for her and what I did to envision a future for us both. We broke up. There was no contact for a week until I called her, and we reconciled. However, something felt off as my trust had been broken. The second breakup: on one occasion, she came to my city, and we planned to take a walk together. That morning, her friend invited her for coffee with her mother, and she accepted without consulting me. When I highlighted this, she erupted. She shouted at me, calling me antisocial. She compared me to her previous partners, asserting they were more integrated into her social life. She mentioned that in a relationship, we make decisions for both of us, suggesting that she decided what I should do without my input. She left the house, declaring that she didn't want to see my face. That evening, we had a party planned, and she kissed me as if nothing had occurred. I began to notice how unstable she was. She wanted me to refer to her as love, again almost immediately, even though I was still hurt. She came to my place to spend the night, and I tried to discuss this incident. She was unwilling to talk and shut down. I attempted 2 more times to express my feelings, but I felt it was my fault for bringing it up at inconvenient moments. I was hurt, yet we maintained contact, and I visited her in her city. Things felt peculiar because our communication was cold. She had stopped calling me love, while she attempted to encourage me with her behavior. I traveled to her city in hopes of mending our relationship. I anticipated her to acknowledge my pain and apologize. It seemed straightforward, yet she was unable to do so. One day in her city, she suggested starting anew, and I requested an apology for the previous event, and she obliged with some effort. Following that, I tried to use more playful terms of endearment, but not love. I told her, "I love you," in English, not in our native language, and she was offended. She ceased using love altogether while I attempted to call her gentler pet names. I returned to my city, and we expressed how eager we were for her return. Making plans to do everything together, she was delighted and even purchased tickets for a show in our city. However, we broke up for the second time during a video call 2 days later because I referred to her with a softer pet name rather than love. Following a weekend at her city, during which we had argued about trivial matters she had raised, it almost felt like she began to view me as an adversary seeking to punish her. I lost my temper and did not wish to engage in conversation. I did not insult her, I was simply overwhelmed. I told her that I didn't want to communicate, and she responded, "We need time apart," coupled with, "Don't be so quick to hang up, you won't see me for a long while," with a smirk. Indeed, she disappeared for 14 days. Naturally, I broke down and texted her, requesting a meetup to discuss things like adults. She agreed, and we had coffee together. As we began discussing the breakup, she shifted full blame onto me for lacking a solid future plan, not making sufficient sacrifices, and not addressing her the way she desired. I admitted feeling guilty, believing that if I had called her love instead of listening to my wounded heart, she might not have left, but it felt incorrect. I was very hurt and gradually tried to rebuild trust in her and her affection, at which point I began using other, softer, terms of endearment. She remained unsatisfied. Moreover, "I would have reached out if you had not, but you were the first to do so." She continuously criticized my family, labeling them as unwelcoming. She was aware of how much this bothered me but never apologized. She expected me to consistently prioritize her, but if I requested something in return, like acknowledging my pain and emotions, I was labeled as selfish and overly sensitive, and always anxious. Regardless, she ended the relationship. In desperation, I called her again, striving for a serious discussion about our connection. I conveyed the following: we both grew up in toxic emotional environments and developed a warped concept of love. In a healthy relationship, we embrace one another's differences instead of competing for dominance. She consistently sabotaged our relationship the moment she sensed I might leave. She perceived love as a power struggle rather than mutual care, believing that if one feared abandonment, they should end the relationship. First, to avoid being left. Her reaction: she asserted that I was the one fearful of abandonment. She claimed that I was the one attempting to manipulate her, and that I viewed her as an angel here to save me. She even denied having yelled at me about the coffee, but when I pressed her, she insisted that she was justified in doing so for my suggestion of involving her in decisions that altered our plans as a couple. She stated that she could not love someone who was not completely aligned with her in every aspect of decision-making. The final moment arrived when we met at a bar, and she expressed that she no longer felt happy and wished to end things for our mutual benefit. The reasons? I failed to refer to her as love for 10 days, causing her to feel unloved. I, the one who was hurt, set aside my pride and continued to do everything for her. However, calling her love when she had belittled me and never taken accountability felt excessive. I needed time. She never made the effort to help me regain that trust through communication. I lacked a solid future plan with her. Diverging from her erratic choices, I sought a well-defined plan, not an illusory one. I required time to know her better and build a strong relationship. She did not have that time, and the biological clock at 33 greatly contributed to this. I understood it and wanted to support her in establishing a future, but I also began to feel neglected, and insisted I follow her unconventional plans, which involved moving to a city for work and then relocating 9 months later. In any case, I informed her that I did not wish to be part of the decision-making process. She was the one choosing to leave. At times, it felt as though she discarded me due to deeply embedded fears, akin to some sort of borderline personality disorder mechanics. Why I currently feel guilty? I believe I should have simply called her love and concealed my pain. I feel that I should have adapted to her vision of a relationship. I question whether I should have conceded on our future plans to retain her. I feel as though I abandoned the hurt little girl within her, whom I worked so hard to protect. I committed everything, yet she left twice. Now I cannot shake the feeling that it was my fault, that I could have salvaged this. What pains me the most is the thought that she will easily move on, meet someone new, and find happiness. That all my love and effort constituted merely a fleeting phase for her. Summary: my ex has a background of emotional abuse from her mother and brought toxic relationship dynamics into our partnership. She never took responsibility for her actions, always blaming me, employing Darvo techniques. She abandoned me twice, and I consistently endeavored to make things right. Now she is gone, yet I feel guilty as if I am the problem. Thank you to anyone who dedicates time to read this. I genuinely need some insights. Story 2. Bought a laptop for €50, but found it dead and filthy. Discovered spaghetti pics and a hacker ex. Facebook exploded after my dad responded. Hello Reddit. This event took place several years ago on Facebook Marketplace involving my father. I was the child in the situation. My father recounted this tale to me about a week ago when I inquired why my birthday gift from a few years back mysteriously vanished. I certainly was not ready for the revelation. Please keep in mind that English is not my first language. However, I will do my best to clarify anything. Feel free to ask. A lot of background: I was approximately 13 years old at that time, now 19. I was engrossed in Minecraft, and my dad and I dedicated a lot of time to the Xbox 360 version. I was achieving good grades in school, so he decided it was time for us to transition to PC gaming. He owned a decent computer for his occupation as a programmer and IT administrator, and intended to purchase a budget-friendly laptop for me. Given our financial struggles, it needed to be inexpensive and used. He came across an advertisement on Facebook Marketplace from a woman he and my mother had met at a nightclub where he was DJing a few years prior. For the purpose of this story, we will refer to her as Spaghetti Girl. She was selling numerous items as she had moved in with her boyfriend and her children. Among those items was an inexpensive laptop. It wasn't anything special, quite worn out, and she claimed that only the network port was non-functional. No problem, priced at €50, about $54 USD, it was worth a try. My dad reached out to Spaghetti Girl and planned to collect the laptop just in time for my birthday. He had to wait for his paycheck. Times were tough. However, when the day arrived, she failed to appear at the meeting location. Later that day, she called my dad, stating that she had to wait for her boyfriend to erase the hard drive because she didn't trust him. He reassured her that he had no intention of prying into her personal information and even offered to assist with that process, given his expertise as an IT professional. She responded, "No, my boyfriend works for the CIA, he's a hacker." Sure, a CIA hacker in Germany named Hans Huber, name altered but a very German name. All right, fair enough. She insisted that the laptop still functioned, aside from the network port. A week later, my dad picked up the laptop, handed over the €50, and returned home. He was unable to test it on the spot because the battery was dead. Once home, the laptop was, unsurprisingly, non-functional. He opened it up to find a cocktail of nicotine, coffee, and unidentified substances. Imagine the sound of a Velcro strap being unfastened. That was the sound the keyboard made when he attempted to lift it. I vividly remember that sound because I was standing next to him, eager to get my laptop operational. I cried through the entire night. Naturally, my dad contacted the pasta lady promptly. She insisted that he must have broken it, arguing that it had been working just fine the day before. Additionally, she demanded €10 for the bag she provided with it. My dad appeared calm externally, yet he locked his office door for 4 hours and instructed us not to enter for the following days. Finally, after a lengthy build-up, the investigation. Remember, my father was an IT administrator at the time. It turns out he was quite skilled at his profession, even serving as a guest lecturer at various universities and giving presentations on data recovery at conferences. He connected the still functional hard drive to his work computer and examined its contents. Naturally, hacker hands had merely formatted the drive. He recovered some files in search of logs, indicating that the laptop had indeed worked recently. The most recent files dated back 6 months, and the system hadn't been shut down since the dirty bit for Windows was also set. Everything pointed to the laptop being non-functional for at least 6 months. Great job, Hans. On the second evening, while my dad was searching for more evidence, he stumbled upon some photos. One featured an elderly man with a guitar, and several others were taken at the nightclub during that time. I remember hearing my dad chuckle from his office, but I was not allowed to enter, and the door remained locked. That bothered me at the time, though now I understand. The spaghetti incident, she had several photos taken of her with spaghetti meticulously arranged into a circular shape on her chest. An abundance of spaghetti, with a dollop of sauce in the center to obscure her nipples. Her boyfriend sat beside her holding chopsticks. I mean, who in the world consumes spaghetti with chopsticks? And who hires a photographer for such a scenario? My dad made an attempt to request a refund and even offered to help retrieve her files. He didn't mention the spaghetti photographs. In response, she publicly lashed out at my father on Facebook, posting things like, "There's this guy, %dad's name %, attempting to blackmail me. What should I do? And no, I don't want your pictures, %dad's name %." To top it off, she added, "When my boyfriend finds out, he'll hack you." A few private messages ensued. "Stop talking about that ridiculous laptop and give me the €10 for the bag, or I will tell everyone you tried to rape me." There were also several insults. My dad had reached his limit. He suspended his Facebook account and fell silent. He nearly lost his job and family over this ordeal, but he was wise enough to preserve all the chat logs with her to demonstrate to my mother and his boss that he was not engaging in blackmail and had not sent any nude images to anyone. Yet, the retribution after a few months, my dad created a new Facebook account, and everything returned to normal. He secured a new job, refrained from adding his boss on Facebook, and chose not to use his real name. He even joined the Old Nightclub Alumni group on Facebook to reconnect with old friends. One day, he came across a new post in the group by Spaghetti Girl, soliciting anyone with pictures from the good old days, because a thief had stolen her laptop and threatened to delete the images. My dad responded kindly. He had a mischievous grin when he recounted this to me a few days ago. "Oh, hello, Spaghetti Girl. Long time no see. I have a substantial collection of pictures from that time, which I found on an old hard drive. There are even some of you and your boyfriend dining on pasta. Do you prefer that I send them via private message or just share them here?" "Nah, just share them here." "As you wish." Fortunately for her, she also received the photos of her recently deceased father, back the nice gentleman with the guitar, but reduced to a resolution of 160 x 160 pixels. The aftermath Facebook exploded that day and in the weeks that followed, at least in our small community. Several events transpired. She was abandoned by her friends who severed all connections. It turned out she had previously pulled a similar stunt with a bouncer at the nightclub, resulting in his termination and expulsion from their social circle. He was the creator of that Facebook group. Noodle Bitch and Chopstick Dick were promptly tagged in all the images by their former friends. Even her cat was tagged in one of the photos. Her long-term boyfriend, Hans, recognized one of her tattoos which he had paid for. Thus, the image had to have been taken recently. He also identified the bed she was on, but he was not the chopsticks-wielding individual in the photo. He had become Hans Solo. My dad had not closely examined the pictures, so he missed the fact that Spaghetti Queen had laid out a considerable amount of drugs, marijuana, and pills in a Ziploc bag, in the background of her images. This small detail was discovered by the current girlfriend of the chopstick wielder, who naturally informed the police, Child Protective Services, and both of their parents. The police were limited in what they could do. Their children were temporarily removed. I lack information on what happened afterward. A few colleagues of hers noticed that post. She quit her dream job as a cashier at Aldi shortly after. She had to vacate Hans' apartment. According to her new Facebook account, she relocated across the country, adopting her cat's name. I realize I come off as spiteful regarding this. However, I feel she received her just desserts along with the €50. Currently, we later sold the hard drive and RAM from the laptop for €30 each. With the proceeds, my dad purchased a used HP desktop for me, allowing me to play Minecraft at 30 frames per second. Coming from the Xbox 360, this felt like a familiar experience. For my 17th birthday, I received a brand new computer at that time. It featured a Ryzen 1600X, GTX 1060, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and a brand new SSD, all free from Spaghetti Photo. He is now a software developer at a larger company, and we are not concerned about finances. We are not wealthy, but we are no longer living paycheck to paycheck. Not all heroes wear capes. However, my dad does. He attended Minecon. I apologize for the lengthy post. I hope it was worth your time. Greetings from Germany. Chris Edit, a few clarifications. We were experiencing financial strain because we were paying double rent due to a recent move. My mother lost her job, and our car broke down. It was quite overwhelming, and it took several months to recover. When picking up the laptop, my dad of course opened it up. Everything that was visible without disassembly appeared fine. The Velcro moment occurred when he disassembled it to see if it was an easy fix like a blown fuse in the input circuit. Some of you noted that Facebook Marketplace was established in 2016. However, people have been buying and selling items on Facebook for years prior to that. There were buy and sell groups before then. So to me, anything purchased from Facebook was considered from the Facebook Marketplace. I may have mixed that up when writing. Today, I learned that some people do indeed eat spaghetti with chopsticks. I didn't mean to judge. This is quite uncommon in Germany. Here's how Hans formatted the hard drive of a non-functional laptop. He removed the hard drive, placed it into a functioning computer, donned his black hoodie and ski mask for the full hacker effect, and typed color A followed by format D, or whatever the drive letter was. For additional hacking tutorials, follow me on Instagram. Story 3. OMG. I ended up getting $6K in company gear shipped to me while on PTO because IT said not to take the phone. Talk about unexpected. Summary: an information technology manager acted rudely and became irritated over my decision to take the company phone during my outdoor activities. Following her strict instructions led to her demotion and eventual resignation, after which a new policy was established. At my previous job, I worked for a company subject to numerous powerful government bodies. When they requested something, they expected it immediately. If there were significant delays, they preferred to halt operations rather than wait for data, information, or prototypes. I was issued a company phone that I had to bring with me everywhere. While there were rotating on-call shifts, I was expected to be available for emergencies. The phone was a unique model from a well-known technology company in California. It was not a model available in the United States. It operated on 2 different networks and had some advanced technology that allowed it to connect to the stronger network, possibly using both simultaneously. I am uncertain about the details, but it was quite impressive. It was certainly an expensive device. I have a passion for nature and enjoy camping, often in secluded locations where I can go for days without encountering other people. After 18 months in the job, a new schedule was implemented that required me to be on call for 3 days, while also working a regular 8-hour shift and living within 20 minutes of the office, followed by 4 days off. This arrangement suited me perfectly, as it enabled me to fly to various national parks or remote state parks as soon as the next on-call team took over. I believed it would be prudent to carry the company phone for potential emergencies. During the 1.5 years I worked there, I was never contacted when I wasn't on call because our teams communicated effectively and were knowledgeable enough to troubleshoot independently. Nonetheless, I took the phone with me. While traveling, the phone's screen sustained damage. It was not enough to render the device unusable, but it certainly made functionality challenging. Upon my return, I completed the necessary forms to request repair or a replacement. A senior IT manager became quite agitated and proceeded to list how expensive these devices were, the challenges in configuring them, and how difficult it was to acquire them in the United States, among other complaints. She then instructed me not to take any company hardware with me, asserting it should only move between my home and the office. She was rather derogatory, incorporating some blatantly racist remarks. I subsequently sent an email detailing our exchange, including my manager and department head in the correspondence. This led to my act of malicious compliance. A couple of weeks later, I took my paid time off. the policy was quite favorable, and I decided on a 3-week vacation, still leaving me with over 3 weeks remaining. True to the IT manager's instruction, I did not bring any company equipment with me. While I was away, an urgent situation arose, and my manager was frustrated that I could not respond to the company phone. I was not relaxing in the wilderness. I was with my cousin, who had just given birth to twins under difficult circumstances. As I took care of her, her husband managed the children. My manager had to track me down on my personal phone, as I was skilled at not sharing my private contact information with my colleagues. Manager, why aren't you answering the company phone? Me, I'm not at home and don't have my company phone with me. Manager, never mind, get back online immediately, we have a critical situation. Me, I'm sorry, but I do not have any company equipment with me. Manager, being confrontational, why not? Me, the IT manager instructed that I was not to take any company hardware when I was away. Manager, what? When did this occur? Me, I sent an email outlining her comments and included you and our department head. Manager checks her email, finds my message and uses more expletives. You need to return immediately. Me, I'm sorry, but no. My cousin is still recovering from a challenging twin pregnancy, and I had already informed you that I wouldn't be able to return during my paid time off. The manager ended the call but called me back in 30 minutes. Manager, do you have anyone who can access your apartment? Me, yes. Manager, share their contact information. I will arrange to have your computer and other hardware sent to you before nightfall, as we have an urgent matter. Me, may I receive additional paid time off to make up for this intrusion? Recognizing my slight advantage at this moment, manager, of course, I will send an email approving that. By 8 p.m., I received my company phone, computer, and other equipment. I also got 2 emails, one approving my extended paid time off for the inconvenience, and another from my department head, stating that the original company policy was still applicable, along with a new policy allowing certain employees to carry their company hardware even when on paid time off. Any previous statements made by anyone else should be disregarded. Incidentally, the IT manager was copied on this email. When I returned from my paid time off, the IT manager was nowhere to be found. It turned out that she had been demoted, found the situation intolerable, and resigned. The company incurred over $6,000 to expedite the shipping of my equipment the same day. Many pointed out that it was not a personal victory for me since I was now expected to carry the phone and laptop, posing risks to the company. First, I probably wasn't essential. The communication culture within our teams was strong, so alternate teams were likely prepared, ensuring I was not the only one capable of fulfilling these duties. However, if regulators demanded additional information while the team was addressing other requests, having more hands available could be advantageous. If the regulators were sufficiently unhappy by the deadline, they might halt our operations, which they had the authority to do. Second, the employer generally respected employees on paid time off. When someone was contacted, they often received additional paid time off. The staff was generally satisfied, although a few might have been disgruntled. Nonetheless, it was reasonable. Third, some might view this differently, and I can appreciate their perspective. However, the situation is not the same as it is in Europe, where the employment landscape differs significantly. The drawbacks. This industry offers roughly 5 times more opportunities in the United States compared to Europe. Fourth, management was typically understanding. Since I was available but away, I would only be engaged if others were overwhelmed. Fortunately, I was not needed. Fifth, I did not ruin anyone's career. She did that to herself. She held a significant position within IT, and I followed her directives. The outcomes were a direct result of her actions. IT often has a limited perspective on business matters. She ought to have consulted with more colleagues instead of acting out in anger. Edit 2/6. The original company policy required employees to have their hardware available when not on paid time off, but the expectation was to carry the phone when on leave. They were upfront about the possibility of being contacted while on paid time off, though that rarely occurred. Given our effective communication culture, at least 3 other team members were informed about my activities. If disturbed during paid time off, our job offers indicated an additional amount of paid time could be granted. Seventh, according to the original company policy, I took my company phone with me. It was not my fault it suffered damage. I certainly did not throw it at rocks intentionally. Accidents happen.